Okay, rolling here on Wings Up Weekly, episode number 14, Tennessee Tech Athletics video podcast. Feels like we're going to have a good episode today because we've got Tennessee Tech head volleyball coach Jeannette Waldo joining us for Wings Up Weekly. Coach, great to see you. How are things?
Things are good. They're as good as they possibly can be playing the waiting game of how everything's going to turn out.
Well, absolutely. And that's why I'm excited for the opportunity to get to talk to a Tennessee Tech head coach again. I feel like we're kind of getting back to our roots here at Wings Up Weekly, where we get to hear how the teams have been holding up. So what can you tell us about the members of Tennessee Tech volleyball and how they're doing?
Well, spirits are good, but they usually are. We get along really well and we have a lot of positivity on our team. And so we're still connecting with them via Zoom. Mainly. We're getting to be pros at that. And texting and phone calls and such, so since they can't really drop in as easily as maybe they could have in the past. But everyone seems really positive, and I think that just they've been forced to be flexible. And so it's nice that now we're in a stage of where they're accepting the flexibility a little more readily than maybe they were before.
Well, it's exciting also the chance to talk to a fall sports head coach. A lot of the early episodes of Wings Up Weekly were with spring sport head coaches. So they peeled back the curtain, what it was like to have their season end abruptly, especially too in talking with you with the news that came out on Wednesday from the OVC, a conference only schedule for volleyball that is now set to begin September 17th. So how has that announcement and then kind of just in general adjusted how your team will go about approaching and preparing for the 2020 campaign?
Well, it doesn't really affect us how we're going to prepare and what we should be doing right now a whole lot because, I was just instilling in them like, hey, we have to prepare like we're going to play, like the season is going to start on time, like no changes are going to happen because then we can always adjust. But if we're not ready and things happen when they should be, then we're going to have regrets. And so we just talked about having no regrets and knowing what you can control and just staying the course. And so having that announcement and find out that we're going to go to conference only play was kind of a relief, interestingly enough, because it was guidance. We had lived in this, what's going to happen? What are we going to do? What decision are they going to make for so long? And the players, I told them I'd give them updates as I had them, but there really weren't any updates for quite a while. And so they were happy to know that there's still hope to play volleyball. That's what they want to do. That's what they love to do. So they're really excited about that. So I told them this is good news, and so they're focusing on the positive.
Well, and that's such a great thing. And a lot of what you just said relates to mindset, positive attitude. I kind of go back to late April when a lot of this was just kind of getting going. Many of the Tennessee Tech head coaches put videos out on social media in which they gave updates on their program, kind of a message as well to fans and supporters. In your video, you talked about how proud you were of your team and their mindset. And you discussed their time management skills, their dedication. I loved how you use authenticity with one another, how they were learning and sharing stories with each other. And then above all, they were being positive. Those things were so important back in late April. I got to feel that they're just as important, if not even more so, now that we're nearing the start of the year.
Yeah, I think that even though this break has felt longer than any other break because our spring ended early, this is kind of sneaking up on us now because, they were so focused on academics and then they had their summer like they normally would, and they were, still working out and still keeping volleyball in mind, but it was still their summer. And so now we have to go back to all of those things. We're still staying positive. Like I said, we're still trying to see now that maybe there's a light at the end of the tunnel. For a little while, it was just a tunnel. And we didn't know what was happening. We didn't know which way to go and if the sun was going to come up, but we've still been talking to one another and we've still been trying to enjoy getting to learn about each other off of the court. And we just had another team meeting this morning where we learned some ins and outs of our team. And so I think that all of that is going to serve us really well. So I think that nothing has changed as far as mindset goes. We just have to, like I said, stay the course and keep being who we are.
And one of the things you brought up early in that response was related to academics, and you discussed things off the court. If you look back at how the spring semester ended for Golden Eagle volleyball, your team had a combined GPA of 368, the highest in program history. You look back to all the adjustments that had to be made, unprecedented times, things like that. What do you think that says about the student athletes of Golden Eagle volleyball?
I mean, they are dedicated and they're passionate. And so when they didn't have to kind of split their mindset and their time and all that, and they could just really hone in on academics, I mean, goodness, those results speak for themselves, you know? So, and another thing that we're really proud of is that none of our players took a pass fail, because that was an option that was given just with the interesting circumstances. You know, if your class changed a lot, you know, you might be eligible to just take it pass fail. And so all of our players were in a spot where they felt really good about their grades, so we didn't have to go down that road and even explore that. And so those are real grades, you know. And so we're so proud of, you know, that they can do anything that they put their minds to, you know. And so they just put really focused in, and it shows.
Well, and that's great stuff, and especially talking about the not taking pass fail and the legitimacy of the GPA and everything like that. I got to ask you right now, are you superstitious at all? If you're talking about streaks, are you superstitious? Because I don't want to bring up a very impressive streak if you are.
Everyone in athletics is superstitious to a point, you know, whether it's just like, you know, maybe I always sit on this side of the bus on road trips, so I'm going to keep doing it, or so, you know, stuff that maybe you don't even, but overall, no, I'm not overly superstitious. So go for it.
Okay, then I feel comfortable about bringing up this incredible streak. I'm a big stats guy. I'm a broadcaster, so it's hard not to be. This stat is incredible. With that 368 GPA last spring, that now makes it 40 straight semesters that Tennessee Tech volleyball has had at least a 3.0 GPA as a team. 40, dating back to the fall of 2000. I mean, that is just phenomenal. Obviously, you weren't here for all that, but I got to believe that it was very important to continue that streak of academic excellence.
Oh yeah, I mean, that was a thing when we first got here. They're like, okay, well, this streak is here, so don't mess it up. You know, we're like, okay. So we've definitely taken that to heart, and our team knows about the streak, and not that it, you know, not to put pressure on them, but just, okay, this is where the standard is, and this is what our expectation is, you know. And so we do everything that we can to uphold it. But I mean, we've got great resources here, you know. I mean, and that's something that we talk about in the recruiting process a lot, is just all of the resources that you have. We have great people over in academics. We have great people here on our staff that help bridge that gap. I mean, we've got tutors, we've got everything that they need. And so really, you know, if you're dedicated and you want to do well in academics, you have that opportunity here. And so we stress that. And then we talk about our streak, and we're like, you know, the recruits that we bring on campus, this streak has been going on before you were born. So to put that in perspective, you know, I mean, we should maybe do a throwback and say this was the phone that was, you know, around during that time, and these were the TV shows, you know. But yeah, so we definitely want to uphold that.
Which is great. Yeah, since the turn of the century, Tennessee Tech volleyball has had nothing but 3.0 GPA, so what an amazing streak. But let's not sleep on what your team has done on the court since you became head coach at Golden Eagle volleyball. First year in 2018, the most wins that the program has since the 2014 season. Then last year, very strong finish to the end of the regular season, 3 straight wins to get to 9-7 in OVC play, a conference winning record for the first time since 2014 also, and then a return trip to the OVC tournament. So a lot of momentum for the program, on the court success. What are you seeing from the head coach's perspective to be able to have that sort of success?
Well, I mean, our team is very motivated. I mean, you know, we talked about that with academics, but just in general, they're very motivated. They want to do big things. They want to do things that haven't been done before, which is something, again, that we talk about in the recruiting process. We talk about it with our current team. It's just, this is an exciting place to be because you can do things that have not been done. You can achieve levels of success that haven't been done in at least a long time, you know, for for the people that are here on our program right now. It was really important that we got to the OVC tournament last year because in order to be good at something, you have to know what it feels like. So we went there, we know what it feels like, we know what that pressure feels like, we know what traveling postseason play is like while you're still trying to balance academics, so that was a really important step for us. And so and then competing really well when we got there, but knowing, okay, did we have enough in us? Were we prepared mentally? Were we prepared physically for that contest? And then we can make some adjustments from there. And now we have something even greater to build off of. So the expectation now when you talk to any of our players is, well, absolutely no brainer. We want to go to the conference tournament. It's not about that anymore. Now it's about winning it. So we went from 2 years ago saying, what are your goals? Okay, we want to go to the tournament. Now you bring someone in here and they're like, well, yeah, obviously we're going to go to the tournament and then we want to do this. So the mindset has grown dramatically since we came here our first year.
Great stuff. And I don't know how much this next thing I'm about to ask contributes to that. And this is, again, from an outsider's perspective, but it seems like it would be a lot of fun to play for Tennessee Tech volleyball. You guys and your staff do a number of things to keep things loose and fun. I go back to the annual Purple and Gold scrimmage where you have a fantasy draft and you get a fake commissioner in there and you go through the draft. I remember an Olympics-related event. I think I heard during these Zoom calls or quarantine, you guys did like a show and tell kind of a thing. So I'm sure there are so many more of these fun initiatives your program does. Which one has been your favorite, and why is doing things like that important?
Well, if you're not having fun, then I guess what's the point? That's why all of these players chose volleyball in the first place, was that it was fun. Now, fun means different things to different people. Sometimes it's just because winning is fun, or maybe it's fast paced and that's why it's fun, or maybe it's the camaraderie of your teammates and that's why it's fun. But at the end of the day, there need to be smiles on your faces, at least behind that game face. There has to be a little smile happening somewhere, somehow. And that's, we talk about being authentic on our team, and that's authentic to our staff. We like to have fun and we like to enjoy each other's company. And so if we're not being authentic and passing those things on, then, you're losing a piece of what we're about too. So what my favorite things, I think in preseason, we do a lot of like minute to win it type games, and we do them in teams that are created for certain reasons. And so those always get very competitive, but they're always very silly. And so it's just funny to see someone doing something so silly with such a stern look on their face and like really caring about the point value and stuff like that. So those are probably my favorite. But I don't know, we do a lot of fun things. Yeah. In our Zoom calls, when our spring got cut short and we were just doing Zoom things, we really weren't talking volleyball. So we did show and tells, which gave us some insight on what somebody thinks is important to show the team and why they want to talk about it. We did some games on there. We did some scavenger hunts. They had to go run through their house and find things, and the first person back got points for it. And so, but everything's still, you notice, like, we're having fun, but everything's still a competition because we're a competitive group. And so if you don't have that aspect in there, then it might not be fun for some people, because they want that little edge. So we're always competing, but yeah, the severity level changes a little from time to time.
Well, I love that. That's so fun and refreshing to hear. Not to put you on the spot right here, but through the show and tells, which player stood out, something that they brought to the table during the show and tell Zooms?
It's really hard to narrow it down. There were lots of stories that were shared. Some were serious and some were kind of funny. And, I was surprised that we didn't meet more people, because this is my brother, this is my show and tell, and so that was kind of funny so then I thought maybe there would be a spin-off of that. We had some, I don't know, we have some characters on our team, so, they were trying to think outside the box and think of what was important to them, but I don't know. I think one of our players introduced us to her phone. This is my phone, like real serious, but I don't know. That's a hard one. I don't know if I can pick just one of those. But we did learn a lot about each other, so they were very beneficial.
Well, that's good that you couldn't pick one because there were so many great ones to choose from.
Yeah.
And speaking of the players, there's so many talented players on your roster. And if you read about the recruits coming in and the incoming freshmen, you go to ttsports.com, find a wealth of great information. Seems like an amazing recruiting class. There's two players in particular that I like to pick out. Both took home all OVC honors last year. You have junior Taylor Dorsey, a second team all OVC performer, second in the OVC in blocks last year. And then the lone senior on the team, Ali Verzani, who was an all OVC first teamer, the first Golden Eagle to do that since 2015. She was third in the OVC in kills and also third in the conference in points per set. What do those two players, and I guess in particular, Ali being the only senior, mean to your team?
I mean, those two players, I mean, it's a team effort for sure, but those two are definitely highlights that, I would not want to play against them for sure. Allie she is really encompassing everything about what it means to be a leader and a senior. I mean, just she takes the team on her back a lot of times when she can, especially during this time when you can't use volleyball as a crutch so much, because she leads by example in that way because she works really hard. But she's also trying to keep everyone organized and focused and keep a high standard of, working out outside of, outside of being on campus and things like that. So she does a lot of things for us. And so I'm really excited for her senior season because she has a lot of really lofty goals that she wants to do. She wants to go out with, a 10 out of 10 on the dismount. I mean, she wants to really raise some eyebrows when she goes out. Taylor Dorsey, I can't say enough good things about her either. I mean, she keeps her head down and she works hard all the time, and she's ready to reach some crazy goals herself, so both of those as a tandem, they're going to be very hard to stop. I mean, I'm surprised that I think that Taylor is going to get a lot of recognition this year that maybe she didn't get in years past, because people just didn't have an answer for her last year at all. And I think that they thought that they could maybe contain her, but she's grown and she will continue to grow. And like I said, I'm so glad I don't have to try to defend either one of them.
Such a good point. While we are on the subject of players, one of the fun things we've done when we've had head coaches here on Wings Up Weekly is we talk about their collegiate career. So let's talk about Jeannette Waldo, the college player at Division II William Jewell College in Liberty, Missouri, a defensive specialist, team captain your junior and senior seasons. Is there a game, a moment, a story, something that sticks out to you during your collegiate career?
It feels like that was a long time ago. I loved playing at William Jewell. I loved it. And when I was going on my recruiting visit, I didn't know anything about the school. But I loved it when I got there. And that's what I relate to when we bring recruits onto campus, is like when I was there, I just knew, I felt like I could be myself there, but also a better version of myself. I loved it. And so when I, got to play volleyball there and then I got to lead within that environment, the love grew, for both the school and for volleyball, the sport. And a lot of moments stick out. I'm still friends with some of my teammates. And so that's a neat thing, just because we've gone in such different directions with our lives, but I think the biggest thing that I remember is that I always wanted the ball in my hands when the pressure was the highest. Like, I wanted to be the one back serving when it was the other team's game point. And I knew that I could lose it if I missed my serve or if I gave an easy serve. Like, that was what I craved. And I would talk to my mom about it because she was at every game that she could be. And she was like, would not even look at me. She was just like, I don't know. I don't want the ball in your hands during that time. I'm like, I want it though, Mom. I got this, And so one of the stats that I can't imagine that I haven't been surpassed now, but one of the stats that I had one of the most the highest serving, like inbounds, like accuracy percentages. But I was in those moments a lot. And so I had practice at it. So that's constantly something I think about with our team is how do you train that pressure in practice? Because it's not the same. I mean, that pressure that you feel in practice serving balls is not the same when the game's on the line, when the other team's game point. And I try to think about how I got to be that person that I want that pressure on me. And I think it was just because I knew I could trust myself in that moment. And I knew I'd started serving when I was, I'm short now, but when I was like really little, because I could do it by myself. I'm an only child. Like I could serve a ball by myself and get good at it. So I guess that's because I started doing that so young. I just got really confident in that skill. But so we're still working on that. And if any coaches see this and have any tips for me of how to do that, then bring them on. Because, that's a key factor is trying to create that game stress.
I mean, we've discussed so much about mindset. What a great mindset you had as a collegiate athlete, wanting the ball when it mattered most, wanting that pressure. And it seems like that's probably translated. I mean, you just talked about it throughout your coaching career. And I like to kind of talk about your coaching career prior to Tennessee Tech, because it's just been success every step of the way. I mean, you look back to when you were a collegiate assistant at the University of Minnesota. That team goes to the Sweet 16. Then in the OVC assistant at Belmont, that team wins the OVC tournament, gets the NCAA tournament. The turnaround when you were an assistant at Green Bay, a team that was 5-21. A couple of years later, they're 21-9. And then most recently, before the Golden Eagles, you were at Missouri State, a mid-major, but nationally ranked. They go to the NCAA tournament. So many great stops throughout your coaching tenure. Is there a game, a match? Because when you have that success, you're playing in NCAA tournaments, you're playing in big conference tournament matches. So is there a match or again, a moment, a story, something that stands out to you during that time?
There's a lot of moments that stand out to me because and it's funny that you asked that question right after the previous question, because I didn't really relate the two, but I love when the pressure is high. Like I love that when I'm coaching, like when we're in the fifth set, and especially if we were down like 0-2 and then we come back and then we win the fifth set. I mean, like those are my favorite wins of all time. I mean, that's like, I call that like the devil's win because, you weren't supposed to do it. You stole it, and I always love it because I feel like that's coaching. Because when you have that time in between sets 2 and 3 to talk to your team, the coach made some kind of change that then worked and gave you the momentum to go into the fifth set. And then fifth set's a crapshoot. I mean, do you start in the right spot against the right people at the right time? And do the right people still have enough gas in them to keep going? But so on the opposite of that, one moment that really stands out to me when I lost was when I was at Minnesota. I'm the volunteer assistant. We are playing Nebraska, who just joined the Big Ten. My dream when I was 10 years old was to play at Nebraska, and my mom went to the University of Kansas, and I was like, but Mom, what if Nebraska wants me? And she's like, we'll cross that bridge when we get there, and so, so the ability to play that team when I was such a young assistant and I'm supposed to play it cool, like I'm in the Big Ten, like it's no big deal, whatever. But like inside, I'm like, oh my gosh, And so we're playing them and we're up 2-0. And I'm like, we're going to do it. We're going to do it. We're going to beat Nebraska. Like I had goosebumps, and then we go into the turn and, at that point you had 10 minutes to talk, and John Cook goes back and talks to his players, and I don't know what he says, and I still want to know. I would love to be a fly on the wall, because then we ended up losing in 5, and he just did his magic, I mean, like he was, and he's still an amazing coach, and so based on that moment, I was just like, I've got to figure out how to motivate like players, like when you're up, how to stay up. I have to motivate them to learn, okay, it's not over yet. Like that's what the great coaches do. They can keep something going the way it's supposed to go, or they can turn it all around if it needs to and head to a positive direction. I mean, so that moment stands out to me because it was a, full crowd. You think of Nebraska volleyball players or
volleyball fans, you think of Minnesota volleyball fans, they're all diehards. You know, that place was packed. And it's just, the energy was amazing. And even though we came out on the other side, that was something that really spoke to me as a coach moving forward, that I wanted to be able to emulate both sides. I mean, because, I mean, our coach was great for Minnesota. Their coach was great. I mean, it was just a battle head to head, and it's just a matter of momentum in the sport of volleyball. And he turned it around and away he went. So, yeah.
I mean, that's a great story. It sounded like it was going in that direction, up 2-0, and it kind of sounded like, hopefully, and it didn't go that way.
There was no celebratory sweep dance, though. There was none of that. And I don't mean any, disrespect to the team, the Minnesota team or the coaches or anything like that. I mean, it was just at that point on that night, he coached them in a better direction at the right time, and it was a very eye-opening situation to know that can happen to anybody if you just don't capitalize on what you have at the right time as a coach, at any level. So I needed to learn that, and that was a very powerful way to learn that.
And credit to you for what seemingly ends up being a negative story because you lost the match, but spinning it to a positive about what you can learn and how you can translate that into coaching. And it sounds like you still use that moment, that story in your coaching tenure right now. So, I mean, that's great for you able to do that. I'd like to.
And to just one more thing about that was, I mean, and this was a team that ended up going to the Sweet 16. So the team needed to learn that lesson too. That just because you're up 2-0 doesn't mean you get to coast. I mean, you have to still put your foot on the gas, and you've still got to close it out. And then, you get out of there and you regroup for the next match. So, I mean, I think that any great team is going to have moments like that where you have to look at yourself and step back for a second and then build on it and move forward. So I think that was also, it was a great thing for me to experience. It was a great thing for that team to experience. So I think all of us needed that. So I try to use that moment to remind our team, maybe when we have a bad loss or maybe when, we lose just by 2, and so we need to use this to help us move forward. It doesn't help us to look backwards.
I'm appreciative. I mean, that's such a good message for even outside of volleyball and outside of athletics and kind of staying in the moment and things like that. Really enjoyed this episode. I mean, obviously some fun stories, but hearing how much mindset is important to your program, how much mindset is important to your style of coaching. And it certainly seems that your players have bought into that, and with the success and the momentum of Tennessee Tech volleyball. Like to end with, as we do a lot here on Wings Up Weekly, especially during this unique time, we give our guests the opportunity to kind of give their message to Golden Eagle fans and supporters going forward. Obviously, the news came out on Wednesday. Conference-only schedule starts September 17th, so the season pushed back about a month from the original start time. So, yeah, whatever you would like to say to Golden Eagle fans and supporters going forward.
I mean, I think that no matter what happens, our team is made up of amazing individuals, and they will continue to be amazing individuals, whether they're putting that effort through volleyball, through their academics, through just being citizens in Cookeville. I mean, I think that there's a lot to be interested in within our program. There's a lot to be excited about. If we do get to play volleyball, which I certainly hope we do, we're going to have a lot of excitement on the court. This group is going to be so phenomenal. I mean, they're going to be very phenomenal. And we have one senior. I mean, she's a super senior. She's someone to watch for sure. But the fact that we only have one senior means that there's still a lot coming up the pike. So I think that now is a great time to be a Golden Eagle volleyball fan, just on the court, off the court, all encompassing. So just keep your eyes out for big things from us.
Awesome stuff, Coach. That's a great message. I'm fired up. Can't wait for the start of the season. Can't wait to get back in the Edwin Center, see some competition. So that's just great. Thank you for joining us today on Wings Up Weekly. Had a lot of fun, Coach. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Definitely. That's going to do it for another episode here of Wings Up Weekly.